You might be in this situation where you have a wound that's there, you're aware that it's there, but you just don't know how to release it. You just don't know how to heal it. And that's why you clicked on this video. Well, there might be missing this one thing that's gonna remove the weight off your shoulders, and you're gonna be able to heal, fully heal. And this doesn't mean that it's a quick fix. This is actually something you're gonna have to cultivate within yourself, and it takes time. This one thing is holding space. And you might be someone that knows exactly what I'm talking about. You're like, yeah, I know what holding space is. I do it with myself already. Maybe you don't do it fully, maybe you don't do it all the time. If that is you, this is just a reminder for you. This is a refreshment. We often need to hear things again and again and again for us to embody them even more. But you might also be the person that is like, what's that holding space? What does that even mean? How do I do that? So this is what I'm going to be talking about today. And let's start with what is holding space. So imagine a friend comes to you and just went through a breakup and is like, hey, I need to talk. And you're there, you sit with this person and you allow them to express their feelings and talk about the situation that went through, and you're not judging them. You're just truly listening to their emotions. You're asking questions like, how did that go? Oh, I feel bad for you. I'm so sorry. And you're really just holding a container basically for this person to be able to pour their emotions and the situation and just express their feelings. So that basically is holding space. But we are not only meant to hold space for other people, have other people hold space for us. To truly heal, we are supposed to be able to hold that kind of space for ourselves. And what do we do instead? We do the opposite of holding space most of the time. So in this same situation, what would be the opposite of holding space? So your friend comes over and she's like, I'm feeling so sad. I broke up with my boyfriend. I don't know what to do. And instead of holding space for her and instead of allowing her to express her emotions, you are just being judgmental, and you're like, well, maybe, maybe it's your fault if he broke up with you, and just get over it. Or even one that like we think we're holding space but we're not is finding solutions. Like, oh, did you think of doing this? Or maybe you should do that. That's not holding space. That is escaping the feelings and trying to get right to the solution and saying, you're not supposed to feel this way, so let's find a solution. And another example for this is, let's say you need to talk to your partner about something that's been troubling you. You feel very sad or you feel triggered by something, and you want to sit down with this person and talk to them. And then you start talking and right away they become defensive, they become angry, they gaslight, or they're just not receiving you. Like they're just in that space where they feel threatened and they respond back, and the argument is just getting bigger and bigger, and you don't actually feel like you were received. You don't feel like you're being understood. And at the end of the argument, you don't feel better. You actually even feel worse. And just like close your eyes for a second and imagine how you're feeling right now. Like this maybe happened already in your life where you tried to express how you were feeling to someone and they could just not receive you, and they were maybe like invalidating your emotions. Like close your eyes and how do you feel? How do you feel inside yourself? Do you feel safe? Do you feel relieved? Or do you feel sad, confused, heavy? And imagine the same scenario, but when you sat down with your partner, they looked at you and they were like, oh, I didn't know you were feeling like that. I'm so sorry. Let's figure it out. Like, let's figure it out together. Like, let's sit down and talk about it. Now, like, how do you feel about that? How does that feel inside of you? Now, do you feel safe? Do you feel as heavy as when it started? Or do you feel lighter? Do you feel like, oh, they're holding the burden with me. I could take this off my shoulders? And now you feel heard? You feel seen? And maybe the even problem you thought was a problem is not even a problem anymore, because that's all you needed in the end, was to feel seen, to feel held, to feel loved. So that's what I'm referring to when I'm speaking about holding space for yourself. Being able to be in that space that when you're going through an emotion, when you're going through a challenge, when something happens, that you're like, hey, I see you. I know it's hard. Let's figure this out together. And you sit down with yourself and you figure this out. And what we often do is judge ourselves. We become critical of ourselves. Oh, you shouldn't feel this way. Why are you again feeling this way? Why'd you always do this? Sometimes we even insult ourselves. Like, you're so dumb, you're so stupid. Like, you have mental issues, what's wrong with you? Why did you do this again? Or just like, I hate myself. Like just angry at yourself. Being like, that's what we do. Or the same thing as I mentioned before, try to find solutions right away. Try to find solutions. We're like, okay, how do I fix this? Or something else, you just numb it out. Let's just not even feel it. It's not supposed to be there. Let me do anything to numb it out, to run away. And now we're contracting. We're not holding space for what's going inside of us. And it's just staying there. So we're not allowing us to heal it, truly heal it. So you have the ability within yourself to be your greatest bully, your biggest enemy, and you equally have the ability within you to be your bestest friend, to be your greatest lover. And to do this healing work, you have to be your best friend. Your enemy can't hold space for you. Your best friend can. You know, there's a time where I was my worst enemy. And someone told me, my boyfriend at the time, I was 19, and he looked at me and he said, you're your worst enemy. And I stayed silent. I was like, oh, he's right. And I was so sad about that. But that really helped me to become my best friend, because I saw that I was hurting myself. And so this is why I'm mentioning it now. Because maybe you're your enemy. Maybe you're also your best friend. Like, maybe you're both. Like, you can't even trust yourself to know if you're gonna be hating on yourself and bullying yourself, or if you're gonna be there for you and stand up for yourself. You can't even trust yourself. And that hurts your soul, that hurts your feelings, that hurts you, and you can't heal in that space. You can't heal in a space that you can't trust yourself to be able to be there for you in the way you need to. In the way you needed your parents to be there for you. Because that's where it comes from. The reason why you're not able to hold space for yourself is because your parents were not able to hold space for you, because they were not able to hold space for themselves, because they never learned it. It's not their fault. They didn't know how. And now, as an adult, you're stuck figuring it out, cultivating it within yourself, learning how. But it's possible. It's just normal that if you never learned how, you don't know how. You learn to suppress your emotions. You learn to judge them because your parents maybe said, oh, don't cry, it's nothing. Oh, go to your room. Oh, stop acting like that. Oh, you're exaggerating. Or they were just too busy to hear your cries, and you never were held. That's all you needed. That's all you needed. You just needed a parent, a caregiver to be like, hey, I see you, it's okay. Do you want a hug? What do you need? To feel safe. But instead it got stored inside of you. And now you've just been carrying all these burdens within you. And the moment that you learn to hold space for yourself, just like a fly, the moment you learn to hold space for yourself, you're allowing all these burdens, all this heaviness to be seen, finally to be heard. You're literally holding your inner child's hand and telling them, see you, I'm there. You're not alone anymore. And then this inner child that still lives in you can finally feel free, safe to express itself. Say like, well, you know, I just want to cry. And you can hold that space. So you're literally like reparenting yourself. As an adult, that's what holding space means. You're offering yourself what you needed and was not offered to you. And like, how do we do it? How do we hold space? How do you do that? If you never learned it, you probably don't know like how to do that, or maybe you already do it to some level, but there's always ways we can expand that container and that fly and hold even more space for ourselves. So I already mentioned a few things, but let's go through little stuff that you can work on to improve that capacity to hold space for yourself. Okay, first of all, like, when do we hold space for ourselves? Technically, you could hold space all of the time. You can always be in that reception mode for yourself, but because throughout the day we feel like emotions and there's always stuff happening. But definitely, like, if you're going through something and there's something that's very hard or heavy within you and you want to heal it and you're like, you don't know where to start, the setting is really important, the environment. You can't have a container, hold a container if you're watching TV or working or talking on the phone or scrolling on your Instagram or whatever. You need to place yourself in a environment where you have soft music playing or it's silence, you have privacy, where you can really receive yourself. Now, that does not mean that that's the only place you could hold space for yourself. So let's say you're at work and you want to start crying because you're triggered about something. Holding space could also mean like taking like a minute just to be like, hey, I see that you're going through something, you're triggered right now. I see that maybe this is not the right place for me to hold this space with you, but we're gonna find a space later today. So just like reassuring yourself kind of thing, like you're talking to those fears or that trigger. And think of it for a child too, that's reassuring. If your parent was busy because they were in the middle of something, instead of yelling at you, being like, hey, I'm busy. Like, let's say they came to you and they said, right now is not the right moment. I'm in the middle of X, Y, and Z, but in an hour, I'll be all yours and you could tell me what's going on. And then that child is like, oh, okay. Like, it could feel safe that it's gonna have a moment to express what it's feeling. So you're doing the same thing for yourself. Now, you find an environment where you have this privacy that you can hold the space for you. So that's critical. Now, there's one trick that I learned. It's not coming from me. It's this guy, 𝗂𝘁 He's a speaker that I really I really love. There's this thing that he often says, and the first time I heard it, I applied it to myself and I really found that it works. So you're going through an emotion and it's really simple. You just say, I'm allowed to feel the emotion. So you're angry, you're sad, you're jealous, you're scared. So you just sit with yourself and you're like, I'm allowed to feel this way. I'm allowed to feel sad. And often, like, when you're like giving yourself permission to feel that, and often that's the moment where it's gonna come out. You don't need to give explanations to it. You don't need to be, I'm allowed to feel sad because my boyfriend did this and this happened. Stop like explaining. That's removing yourself from your emotion and going on the external. Go inwards. I'm allowed to feel sad, period. I'm allowed to feel this way. I'm allowed to be hurt. It's allowed to be hard. I'm allowed to not know how to do this, okay? I'm allowed to not know how to hold space for myself. Just saying that is holding space. Now, as I mentioned earlier in the video, also, like, when you're holding that kind of space, don't try to find solutions. Solutions are going to come later on. And oftentimes, when we are able to process our emotions in this way, the solutions are naturally going to come. We're not even going to have to force them. Or sometimes we might even find that we don't even need a solution, finally. That's all we needed to hear ourselves, see? So if you're there trying to find solutions, bring yourself back to your emotion. Just feel what's going on. Hold that space. And if you find this hard to do, try imagining that you're received by a friend. So you have a friend that you want to talk to about this. How would you like them to receive you? How would it feel good So you can even do this exercise now. Like you can pause this video, close your eyes or journal it, write it down, and imagine yourself going through something. You go to see a friend. How would you like this friend to receive you? And then you can offer yourself that same grace. And also when we're holding space, we're actually witnessing our emotions. We are not our emotions. We often identify to them. Like, oh, I am sad. I am this person that is sad. Like, this is what I am. This is who I am. And that's why often we can't process the emotions because we embodied them. Like, this is me. This is my identity. But when you're holding space, you're actually more like a third party, like a parent that is there and that is witnessing what is being felt. And you can even ask questions to yourself, like, where does it hurt? Where do I feel the sadness? Why do I feel sad? Like, what's going on? What am I scared of? Like, you can even say it, like, what are you scared of? And sometimes you're gonna hear an answer. There's something that is gonna come up. So it's really you, there's like a consciousness that's witnessing the experience. So it's really you witnessing. You're not the emotion, you're not the experience, you're just experiencing the experience. I also find that it goes a bit in the same direction as witnessing, that it helps, and this too is something you can do right now, to close your eyes and imagine the child that was you, that was experiencing this. Imagine the version of you that first experienced this. Or even if you're doing it right now, you could just imagine your child being there in front of you, like your inner child, and you're here as the adult. And you just close your eyes, see the child, take its hands, tell it, I'm here with you now. You're not alone anymore. I see you, and you could come to me whenever you need. I'll always be there to hear you. And even doing this now sets the tone for the next times, because you created a link with that child. I know the first time I did this years ago, started crying. It's like my child was like, finally you're there. I was waiting for you. And it was just all alone inside of me, and it was screaming sometimes and I couldn't hear it because I was like, no. So this is an exercise that could really help. And there would definitely be a lot of different ways to hold space or exercises that can be done. For now, this is what is coming up for me. This video is actually the first video on my channel that is taking a new direction, because I initially started this channel just to express my voice, but I didn't really know exactly what I was going to talk about. But I did do a lot of reflections in the last months, and this is why I stopped doing videos. And now I do want to keep a focus on self-healing and doing videos with this kind of tonality. So emotional self-healing, self-compassion, finding new tools to heal ourselves. So if there's any subjects you want me to talk about, something you're going through and you don't know how to deal with, just leave it in the comments and let me know what you thought about this video, and if it was helpful, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and talk to you soon.